After 20 years of delay, President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the Petroleum Industry Bill into law. Ehosa Igumbo, our Rice News correspondent, reports.
The petroleum industry is the backbone of the Nigerian economy. But for many years, that sector has been challenged by several governance issues. Efforts to fix these problems in the last 20 years have failed. The jinx has now been broken by President Muhammadu Buhari after he signed the Petroleum Industry Bill into law. This is coming into effect 1 month after the bill was passed by the 9th National Assembly. The main objective is to promote the exploration and exploitation of petroleum resources in Nigeria for the benefit of the Nigerian people and promote sustainable developments. Until its passage, the Petroleum Industry Bill generated controversies over the allocation to host communities. And now the president has signed the bill into law in self-isolation in compliance with public health measures after his return from the UK, where he attended the Global Education Summit. He says this is in fulfillment of his constitutional duty. A more elaborate ceremony has been prepared for Wednesday after the mandatory isolation period for the president. The presidency says it's a victory for the country and a plus for the Buhari administration. It's hoped that the law will provide transparency and accountability in the management of the oil sector. Ehosa Igumbo, Arise News.
Meanwhile, reactions are trailing the Petroleum Industry Act. State governors are up in arms and they say that it does not take care of the interests of state governments and leaves them without a say in the new NNPC that will emerge, while organizations like the Ijaw National Congress describe it as a slap on oil-producing communities of the Niger Delta region of Nigeria.
3% is considered as a slap, but moving forward, we have started the process of consultation, vertically and horizontally. We have to adopt a new strategy. You have to bear in mind that we've addressed the press, local and international. We have spoken to so many people. We have written memos. We even met the president and told him that, look, the sufferings of our people are multifaceted and so that 3% will not do anything.
Group Chairman and CEO at the International Energy Services Limited, Dr. Diran Fawibe, joins me now to speak on this development. Dr. Fawibe, thank you for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, very quickly, the federal government, the Senate, the National Assembly, everyone from the government side, they're saying that this is a major victory for Nigeria, considering that this particular piece of legislation has been 20 years plus in the making. But the state governors are saying that this is not true, that this is unconstitutional, this is illegal, and in fact, one learned SAN, Michael Zekome, has written a piece saying that this is a violation of the law, and to that extent, the PIA is unconstitutional. Well, I mean, you have been in this industry for almost forever. Who should we believe and why? What's your take?
Well, I guess the lawyers, may have a different approach to the consideration of Petroleum Industry Act. But for those of us who are operators, in the industry, we are only concerned about how to make the existing law that has been signed by the president, to work. And first of all, fulfilling all protocols, I must congratulate President Buhari for having the courage to break the jinx about signing the law. Indeed, it's true that the law has taken about 20 years in the making. Remembering that it was Chief Obasanjo's administration that first laid out the blueprint, in year 2000, during the era of the late Dr. Rewan Lukman of blessed memory. And Dr. Egoga was charged with the responsibility of heading the panel, to prepare the report. But of course, it wasn't until 2008 that it was brought to the National Assembly. So we understand the trajectory of the journey of this PIB and now PIA, over the past 13 years. Now, whatever may be the shortcomings of the law, as I said it here at one time, that there is no law anywhere in the world that is perfect. We have to make use of what is there and then work on possible amendment, to the law. But in terms of whether it is, the whole law cannot be said to be unconstitutional. Certain provisions may be considered unconstitutional by lawyers who will interpret the provisions of the law. Like, for example, in what way has it eroded the distribution of fund coming into federation account? Or will the new law allow money for crude oil sales and other revenue going into federation account, which will be shared to the three tiers of government? Now, the Minister for Petroleum did say that nothing has changed in terms of revenue accrued to federal government or to federation account. Only that the route, has changed. For example, according to the new act, the revenue will have to go to the Petroleum Commission, before it goes to the federation account. One could wonder why it has to take such route, such journey. Why shouldn't they make a direct approach for the revenue to come to federation account? For example, in the original bill that was prepared many years ago, there was provision for the creation of National Petroleum Asset Management Company. That was to be the company that will be responsible for collecting revenue either from NNPC Limited or for payment of royalty and any other revenue that may be coming, and then we'll get it into the federation account. So I wonder why this arrangement was jettisoned. The way the coming in of revenue has been scattered all over the place in this new act. Fundamentally, basically, I don't really understand. But be that as it may, I think it's one of the areas that I will expect that those who will be working on the revision and amendment to the law should focus or consider. So let me stop here, and then we can take some other issues.
Well, you are quite on point, Dr. Fawibe. Some people have talked about ambiguities within the law. I don't know whether you would like to comment further on that to help us identify further some of those ambiguities. One of the ambiguities that have been cited by commentators on the Act includes the role of the Upstream Regulatory Commission. Will it be a regulatory agency, or will it also perform functions, commercial functions, particularly when you look at the provisions of Section 7EE of the law and also Section 64C of the same law? So what kind of new NNPC are we likely to expect?
Well, I guess the way the law has now been construed for Petroleum Commission is to make it another NNPC. We complain about NNPC having too much span of control or authority over the years, whereby policy and regulation and commercial were lumped into NNPC. Of course, for those of us who were there at the time the NNPC was formed, we recognize that the Ministry of Petroleum at that time had to be merged with the NNOC, that's in Nigeria National Oil Corporation, because of the scarcity of resources. And the wisdom of the founding fathers of NNPC was to harness the resources, the executive capacity, available in the country for managing the oil and gas industry from the side of public sector. So, but now things have changed. in terms of the Petroleum Commission, I don't see why we should mix regulatory authority with commercial operation. And because that's precisely what we are getting into with the way the new act has positioned, the Petroleum, the Petroleum Commission, or as we call it. So this is one area that I will expect the authorities to still reconsider. Now, if you are looking at regulation, you cannot also engage in activities that you are supposed to regulate. It's like what lawyers used to say, you cannot approbate and reprobate at the same time. That is exactly what the provision made for the Petroleum Commission. So we have to separate regulation and the enormity of activities set aside for the Commission is so much that we should not mix the area of control or activity with operation. And we should allow the Commission to take over the responsibility of present DPR and give it effective resources to be able to do the work. Then when it comes to commercial activities, like for example, somebody, it was being said that this commission will be responsible for selling the crude oil. Why should that be? So if we cannot trust NNPC to do this, the sale of petroleum, to do the sale of crude oil, we better create another organization, another company. Then it will be that all chiefs and no Indians. So, but be that as it may, I see contradiction, in the role being assigned to the Commission, and I think we have to reflect, about this and think for the future, that it may not augur well, because the position of the Commission will certainly be compromised.
Well, since the introduction of the PIA, industry players have also talked about gas exploration. In your view, do you think that the law makes enough provision for gas exploration and for addressing the challenge of gas to oil ratio?
Well, in terms of gas exploration, yes, I think there is enough provision in the law for gas exploration. Now, we have what we call associated gas. That is oil produced in association with oil. And as long as you are having oil operations, oil industry exploration, whenever you explore for oil and there's gas, that is associated gas, and there's provision for that in the Act. Now, when we are talking about non-associated gas, there's also provision and incentive for exploring for non-associated gas. And the fiscal regime, the new fiscal regime, has made provision, has incentivized, the exploration of non-associated gas, and which could also be used for a variety of things, either for power generation or for developing downstream for ammonia or petrochemicals and things like that. I think we have enough provision. And the fiscal regime, which is very important, I think make provision for just about 10%, 5% royalty when it comes to exploration of gas, as against, for deep water is about 10% royalty. For inland basin is 7.5%, and for onshore is 18%. For offshore is 16%. But for gas, it's about 5%, which gives enough incentive for anybody that may want to explore for gas. The key thing now is whether we will make arrangement to do a gas bidding round as against all bidding round alone, which has been the case. And if we recognize the fact that we have over 200 trillion cubic feet of gas as a reserve, then we should better address ourselves to gas exploration, especially since we now understand or recognize the fact that it's part of the green energy or energy transition.
Well, Doctor, it's good that you talked about the fiscal framework for gas. Isn't it the case that it's been reported that the IOCs are not happy with that fiscal framework? And so how do we provide incentives for them to make sure that they participate in the domestic gas space?
Well, for the IOCs, in terms of not being happy, I guess the situation now is very much different from the past. I see this provision in the new act as a kind of carrot and stick approach, to development of gas. And obviously, I won't say take it or leave it, but the key thing is to understand it carefully. The only disincentive, which has, I think, if I'm correct, I think it's about the lack of allowance to be cost. I think fiscal allowance that is not allowed for gas. But other than that, I feel that there is adequate provision for them to be able to develop gas, and especially so far they have not been very active when it comes to non-associated gas. They have been developing unassociated gas, associated gas for the LNG, for example, and the price incentive is what has been a sort of discouragement to them over the years. And the way the pricing has been structured, I think it's about $3.50, per MBTU, and which will only increase, by about 2%, every year, and up to a maximum of about $4 MTU. So on that basis, I think, let truth be said, I think we have enough incentive for the IOCs to work on gas exploration and development.
Okay, Doctor, let's talk about the 3% host communities trust fund, which the host communities have objected to. They've also objected to the 30% for the frontier basins. Well, 3% host community trust fund, that would be like a tax on the operators, I guess. But, what do you think of the reaction of the host communities? And do you think that government has done enough or should do more to explain what this is in terms of competitiveness and the expectations of players in the market?
Well, if we have a historical overview of this community trust fund, in the original PIB, it was 10%, that we had there. And it's one of those elements that prevented the bill from being passed to law. And if you remember, and many of you will remember this, on the floor of the Senate, many senators did oppose vehemently, the 10%, saying that when you give 10% to host communities, on top of the 13% derivation, on top of the allocation being made to NDDC, which is about 15%, and also 1% charged to the operating companies. So how much is left for the federation revenue, for the revenue going to federation account, from which all states of the federation will share, including the oil-producing communities, oil-producing states. So it was on the basis of this that the bill was thrown out. Now, during Yar'Adua administration. And the same thing happened during Goodluck Jonathan administration. So now, the bill now, the law making provision for 3%. Personally, I would feel that 3% is too small, and I've canvassed here at one time that minimum to my own mind should be about 5%. But be that as it may, the 5% or whatever percentage will be a levy on the operating companies. And don't forget that the operating companies will have to pay, some other monies. 15% of their operating budget, annual budget, is going to the Niger Delta Development Company Authority. Now, they will also have to pay 1%, to NCDMB, and they also have to pay 3%, another 3%. So when you now calculate the amount of money being paid by the operating companies, then you now wonder, how much money is going to be left for the federation account. But if the Nigeria state is generous, I feel that about 5% shouldn't be too much. Even though it is a levy on the operating companies, and which of course is tax deductible, because this money is tax exempted and is deductible. Although we have up to 65% limit, for tax for expense, in the when it comes to tax computation. So, but and like I said before, I feel that the Niger Delta communities, and especially the youths who are threatening fire and brimstone, should be able to work with this. When you go into there is quite an elaborate arrangement for the structure and the administration and management of this fund. Like the GMD of NNPC was saying, that we have up to about $500 million per annum that will be shared among the host communities. And to my own mind, I feel there is a lot of indiscipline, in Niger Delta, because if the Niger Delta state government have been judiciously managing the 13% derivation for that region, the issue of crying for remediation, crying for development, and Niger Delta, should have been minimized. I remember the exercise I participated in as far back as 1973, when royalty was being paid to various communities, to the state. But what have we made use of this money? I used to go to Warri, in the 70s and 80s. When I now went back again in the 90s, I didn't see any development, which means that the money paid to the states had gone down the drain. And I think the people of Niger Delta should hold their government responsible. I'm not inciting the people against their government, but there should be some elements of sense of responsibility by the government to the people, and even to the host communities we are talking about. Because if some of these monies have been spent for development of the oil-producing communities, the issue we are talking about there, yes, may still be there, but will not be as heated as we are having it now.
Well, Dr. Fawibe, point were made, but we have just about a minute to go, and I'd like to ask you about removal of fuel subsidy. The expectation is that with this law coming into effect, the fuel subsidy will be automatically removed. But the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timi Presiva, says that won't happen immediately. What are your thoughts on that? Quickly.
Well, the petroleum industry bill is supposed to liberalize the setting up of refineries and so on. And it's only when we have refineries that can produce, so much petroleum products for consumption that we don't have to import, that we can now talk about subsidy removal. Let's face it, and I've said it times without number, unless we produce enough for our local consumption, and as long as we continue to import petroleum products, there will be a problem about subsidy, except Nigerians will want to pay the appropriate price of petroleum product, which will be that we will pay the full landed cost plus other expenses to move the product from one place to the other. Until that is done, we continue to have subsidy. But I would think that the problem, the solution to the problem is in sight. If Dangote refinery comes on stream, say next year, God willing, and NNPC refineries are working, then we shall have stop importation of petroleum products.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Diran Fawibe. Well, case well rested.